All right, is this thing working? Okay, hey, I'm Peter Franson from ChristianGeekCentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, here with an uncut review. Oh wait, no, I did the backwards. What do I usually say? Okay, hi, I'm Peter Franson from Spirit Blade Productions with uncut. No, what do I say before that? I say something like, well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said for Jurassic World? Stick around and find out. Dun-dum. Bum 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 da 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 da. Oh, what's this? A shark? Oh, I know what to do with that. Da da. All right. So, like I said, Peter Franson, ChristianGeekCentral.com, and Spirit Blade Productions. I'm trying to race through this review. I got two boys downstairs that are probably just gonna start beating the snot out of each other really fast. Normally, I would save this for a time when I'm guaranteed to be able to do it without being interrupted, but my time is too precious to me today, and I just want to fire this sucker out with as little effort as possible, because I kind of feel like maybe that was part of the creation process for this film. All right, Jurassic World, let's talk about it. The synopsis, I'm not going to give you the IMDb synopsis. Here's my synopsis. 23 years after scientists cloned dinosaurs in an attempt to create a theme park which resulted in multiple horrific human casualties and a T-Rex getting loose in New York, people have decided that the whole dinosaur theme park idea was in fact a great one and decide to move forward with building the rebranded Jurassic World, which millions of customers who are completely aware of how wrong things went in the past have been visiting year after year, demanding more frightening and life-threatening dinosaurs to look at. A mother and father in the midst of marital struggles decide it's a good idea to send their two sons off to this theme park without them, while the scientists in charge of dinosaur cloning decide real dinosaurs aren't enough and they should make a super dinosaur made up of the most terrifying and dangerous dinosaurs ever to stalk the earth. And of course, everyone is confident that nothing could possibly go wrong except for the one guy who is right about everything but who no one listens to until blood is soaking the room. All right. So, story. If not for the blood and violence, this would be a kids movie. Maybe a family movie, but I would almost say kids, because there are two chief kid protagonists, and they're part of an ensemble cast, but they have very significant roles. I would say more so than the two kids in the original Jurassic Park. And the youngest of those two is just overempowered. He's too smart. They're both too brave and kind of stupid. Jeez. That's just one example of echoes of the original movie, but really this is the same plot skeleton in the past three movies, recycled over and over and over again. We've got naive billionaires and morally indifferent scientists who devote themselves to a vision that is destined to go very, very bad. One thing that was missing in this movie, I think it really could have used, is the expert, the dinosaur expert. We had that in 1 and 3, not so much in 2, a little bit in 2, but this had no dinosaur expert to tell us what we're in for and build anticipation about these dangerous dinosaurs we're going to encounter. So there was no tension built that way as the lore of these dinosaurs was explored in, with kind of reverence and or fascination, or whatever you might call it. I felt like in especially the first one, but even in the second one as well, that there was this sense of discovering this world that I'm really not familiar with, because I'm not a dinosaur buff. And so having them kind of talk about their hunting patterns and stuff like that, and their special abilities and stuff, it was cool. It was like a monster movie in that sense, where the monster is slowly revealed over time, either because people are discovering things about it or saying things about it, or you're just seeing more of it and what it can do as the movie unfolds. And I really missed kind of that aspect of monster movies in this flick. There was just lots of CG and crazy directions that the story took instead. Like now the raptors are trying to train them to be like hunting animals for the people, or it's so weird. Monster franchise rule number 1 for me, if you're making a movie, for me anyway, don't make us root for the monster. As soon as you do that, like if you look at the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie from back in like the early 80s, it was decent, but I mean, more and more as that series went on, you're rooting for the bad guy, and you see that in a bunch of horror movies and monster movies as they progress and have more and more sequels, and that's totally what's going on here, and it just takes so much tension and threat out of the experience of watching the movie. Okay, hold on one second. Do you need something? What do you need?
Can you help me open this?
I can, but I'm recording right now, so I'm going to come down and help you as soon as I'm done, okay? All right, bye-bye. Okay, so characters are either painfully foolish or way smarter than they have any right to be in this movie, this story would never happen. And not just because of the whole dinosaur cloning thing, but because people are far more cautious, paranoid, whatever you might want to call it, than this. You know, if some kind of like disaster happened at Disneyland where like horrible beasts, not just a machine breakdown, but like an animal that, you know, had like a degree of choice and like just behavior that's unpredictable and stuff. Oh my gosh. We just wouldn't, I mean, there would be so many logistical issues that we would have at least prepared for, you know, if we did decide to still go through with a theme park like this, knowing full well what happened in freaking New York with the T-Rex in New York and people dying on the island and people dying on the island again a few years later, you know. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, it was established that it was public knowledge in Jurassic Park 3 when people were asking Sam Neill's character, they all want to ask him questions about New York and about the stuff that happened on the island and stuff like that. And of course, you know, a T-Rex going loose in New York, you know, it's public knowledge. I don't understand the premise of this movie. It doesn't make any sense to me. And also, like, having knowledge of all those things that happened in the past, you know, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, they should be preparing for all these eventualities. You know, it's like those horror movies, like, which I am tired of now. When I see people in a horror movie, which this isn't quite, but it has elements of it. When I see people in a horror movie doing stupid stuff and you're wanting to yell at the screen and say, "Don't go into the basement, you moron! It's right there. You know it's going to be right there. What are you doing?" You know, that really doesn't work for me. It works up to a point, but if I feel like there's a point at which the characters become so stupid that I'm like, you know what? You have brought this on yourself. I no longer have any sympathy for you because you are like beyond foolish. Like I've never met a person as foolish as you. It's just so unrealistic how foolish you are. And I felt like that's what was going on all over the place in this movie. There were so many things that I am not equipped to run a theme park or do anything remotely what these people are doing. And I would have been like, hey, should we consider this possibility? I mean, oh my God. Oh my gosh. So I was like, within the first 30 minutes, disconnected from these foolish people and their fate. So anyway, why not a true Jurassic World? When I first heard the title of this movie, I thought, wow, that has a lot of potential. Are we finally going to see the dinosaurs coming off the island and humanity as a whole having to deal with the fact that dinosaurs, or something very close to them, since they're not quite true dinosaurs, are now like part of the ecosystem, the global ecosystem now? How would we deal with that? Not necessarily, I mean, you could go like post-apocalyptic, like everybody's just kind of hiding underground from the dinosaur menaces that have now taken over the world, but I don't think you need to do that. I think it could be somewhere like a really interesting middle ground where it's just kind of like, you know, people in more rural areas, you know, maybe have to just be more cautious about the various wild animals that might live in the area, and so there's just different precautions that they take. You know, I would be interested in a world that was a Jurassic World where people were still trying to go about their business, but of course business and commerce and all these kinds of things have changed because people just have to be much more cautious on a day-to-day basis because there are just dinosaurs that are on the outskirts of cities and stuff like. I mean, there's so much potential to take this series in a totally different direction, and they just failed to do that. I mean, this is 14 years now since the last movie was made in the series. 20-some since the first one was made, but 14 since the last one was made. And that's plenty of time to kind of sit back and say, you know, what would be worth it? You know, what kind of story would make it worth it to bring this franchise back and to do something new, take it in a new direction. I love it when franchises take a break for a while and then they come back with a reinvigorated concept. And that's really what should have happened, in my opinion, with this movie, and it didn't. This story felt like it was one that was just cranked out, you know, to make another one 2 years after Jurassic Park 3. But it's been 14 years! 14 years! And they're still using these formulas. And it's, oh man. And it's not even, they're not even executing them, in my opinion, as well as they were executed in the past. I mean, it's so strange that 14 years, they had 14 years to prep for this. And I don't get it. Cast, performances. Okay, do I have my sign? There's my sign. I want to make sure that you guys can see pictures of these guys. Oh, but I don't remember any of their names. Oh yeah, I got Chris Pratt. Is that his name? I didn't even do my research. I felt like if these guys, somebody along the line didn't put in the effort they should have when crafting this movie. A lot of people did, but I have to believe that somewhere along the line somebody phoned it in. So I'm not going to put much effort into my review either, I guess. But the cast was fine. The cast was good. In fact, they were solid. And the youngest actor's emotional access is really impressive. There's no bad acting in this movie as far as I'm concerned. Just shallow, uninteresting characters that are like no one that I know. It worked for me in the 90s, but even then it wasn't as extreme, I don't think, as it is in this movie. Well, maybe, I don't know. But it doesn't work for me today. Whatever, maybe I've changed, maybe culture has changed, expectations and what kind of stories are told in film have changed. I don't know, but something's different. I don't like it. Good job, actors. I wish you had better material in this movie. The stunts and visuals, CG, all over the place. So if you're like me and you have an eye that's cursed to pick out CG, whether it's great or bad, you're going to be disappointed. It is improved slightly from the first movie, but in my opinion, largely CG has not gotten any better than the original Jurassic Park. It's still just yep, there's some CG. There's a fancy looking cartoon is what it amounts to for me. I did spot some rare animatronics used in the movie, but by and large, the CG is way overused in this movie. Plenty of action, but the CG-ness of it all and a lack of good build-up made it mostly boring for me. So I'm going to wrap this up. I want to talk about relevance briefly first. Is there anything of moral, spiritual significance in this movie that might trigger some thought or conversation in the course of watching it or thinking about it afterward? Maybe. There's two things I can think of. One is that the park owner at one point remarks that the secret to a happy life is realizing that you are not in control, and there's definitely some truth to that. I think that's one of the things that the Bible calls us to recognize is that, you know what, we are not in control. God is in control, and he works all things together for the good of those who believe in him and are called according to his purpose. I think that's Romans. Is that 8:1? There's like a few Romans verses I always get mixed up. Somebody can correct me in the comments. But that's that's a very basic idea, is that, you know, we are not in control. God is in control, and Jesus talks about worrying and how worrying is not going to add a day to your life. No one's promised tomorrow, and worrying is not going to extend your lifespan. There's no guarantees, you know. Preparing is one thing, but I mean, like, worrying and trying to seize control of your life is futile. So I thought that was a good observation that the park owner made. It's also interesting that the boys, I mentioned that their parents are in the midst of possibly a divorce. I mean, that's kind of what the boys suspect, but we don't really know for sure what the parents are thinking. The boys are getting letters from two different lawyers, so it's probably looking like divorce. And the jaded older brother is kind of like, yeah, whatever, that's just life, kid. And the younger boy is really broken over it. And I appreciated that. I appreciated that it wasn't like the Mrs. Doubtfire, you know, ending where it's, sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen Mrs. Doubtfire, where the parents don't get back together. And that was one of the first movies where that the ideal of maintaining marriage was kind of like they lowered the bar and said, you know what, we're just going to lower the bar because you can't always have that, and so we got to be realistic. This is how it is, but life can still be good, you know. Well, I think as long as, you know, we're dealing in the realm of fiction and stuff, that it's good more often than not to place an ideal for people to strive toward. And in the case of divorce, you know, it's sad. The older brother says, you know, like, all my friends are divorced, so whatever. That's just what, you know, what goes on in life, you know. Now you're gonna get 2 birthdays and 2 Christmases and all that stuff. And the younger kid in tears says, I don't want 2 birthdays and 2 Christmases, you know. He wants his parents to be together, you know. And I think we're lying to ourselves if we say that kids will be just as fine growing up in a divorced, you know, parent home than a healthy home where the parents have resolved those issues and they're fighting for their marriage to work. So anyway, I appreciated that kind of hope was that ideal was still kind of represented, and there was an acknowledged tragedy of the nature of attached to the nature of divorce. Sorry. So okay, in summary, if I were a time traveler, I think a lot of people are going to like this movie. The theater was more full than it usually is when I go see movies, so I think a lot of people are seeing it. I think it's going to be successful. They'll probably churn out another one. Hopefully they'll let us wait 14 years again. But if I were a time travel, going back in time, talking to myself, I'd say, yeah, Pater, all those instincts you had about the trailer, they were right. I know you're really going to get your hopes up like you always do and try to be positive and open-minded, but you know what? Don't bother with that whole ritual of yours and just run far, far away from this movie. It will not surprise you in a positive way. It will just totally live up to your expectations based on the trailer. I mean, you know, the moment in the trailer that really sticks out to me that I think epitomizes this movie is, you know, that part in the trailer where like that massive dinosaur, it just jumps out of the water and just grabs that shark and eats it in one bite. I mean, that, I think, that dinosaur jumping to the shark really represents what this movie is all about. Okay, so it's rated PG-13 for intense sequences of science fiction violence and peril. For final score, I give it a quality of 6.5 out of 10. That's a D. It's a mid-range D. And a relevance score of 6.0 out of 10. That's like a D minus. So I think you're really going to have to struggle to kind of have any kind of worthwhile thoughts spring to mind and be mulled over in your brain after seeing this movie. It's just not that kind of experience. So there you go. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you like this video, want to share it, and want more videos like this. Also, what am I talking about? Yeah, visit, where's the thing? Crap, here we go. Didn't do my prep. This is what happens. It's way the crap over here. All right. No, that's not the right side. Crap. Here it is. Okay, boom. I do hope that after watching this video, you stop by Christian Geek Central and hang out with some other like-minded geeks there as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Done. I get to move on with my day and try to forget this movie.